If someone's dying to want to know, like, why is cyber a thing right now? I would like to think, as we're all sitting on a virtual, sitting at our computers, talking through a virtual backplane, that has now become kind of the mainstay of our community. Whereas we used to have this in-person conversations, and these were much more enjoyable in a little bit of an auditorium. We're now doing it all by this network, using Zoom. So Chris, to kind of correct, I guess we're all Zoomies today. So why cyber? Why the Academy? So the Academy is kind of interesting. We're one of the few organizations that has not only a legal ability, but kind of a mandate to develop folks into the entire breadth of cyber. And cyber, so let's think about cyber in kind of lots of different levels. Some people will use like the upper level cyber, right? So everything digital is related to cyber and cyberspace. I'm a huge proponent of the large cyber, but we can break it down into the subcomponents. So first off, automation. So digital automation, computer science, the classic kind of aspects of cyberscape, the cyber landscape as a whole. The Air Force in many ways is 20 years behind in terms of automation, and we're in a critical aspect where if we want to be competitive with our adversaries, and those that put at risk our digital economy, well, then we need to understand how to go do it at scale, and that's automation. And so that's kind of our computer science program. If you want to look at cyber and the more kind of specific one, which is the offensive and defensive ability to cause actions and effects and to prevent those action effects against ourselves, well, that's kind of a clear mandate that we as a country need to be able to have professionals who are deeply immersed and understand of all the implications of the digital environment. And digital might be networking, but it also could be transport over satellites, protection of satellites that are helping our economy, protection of the satellites that are helping our military industrial base. Or weapon systems or any of the like. We need to have folks who can be in a position to be able to make effects in that domain rapidly. And so if you ever get the chance to come visit, and for those of you that have visited, I apologize, you might have heard this story before, but we have this cool kind of table, right? It's this wonderful looking train set. It's train set. And we call it Cyber City. And so Cyber City on this train set has this awesome like little aircraft on there. And we talk about this aircraft and the implications of that aircraft for what it means. Because the physical representation nowadays that frankly it's so incredible that our officers understand is that little airplane that's sitting on that toy train set table, which by the way has a gigantic and one of the most complex backends of any cyber lab in the country, for ICS and SCADA, basically the digital electronics that are controlling our lives. That train set and that airplane, it is incredibly vulnerable to all things cyber. And so I use the example for our freshmen. So 1,200 so our freshmen that go through our program at the entry level. We talk about that train set, and then we have them do engagements and actual try to do effects inside of cyberspace and have it replay on the kinetic field. These are intertwined now. No longer is it that your computer is separate from the kinetic effect or the actual world. So we talk about that airplane, and we say, well, let's talk about let's assume we have a situation, which is a completely realistic situation where that aircraft has fissile material on it, right? Nuclear material that could produce another bomb, or it's being shipped to another country that's adversarial. So, potentially North Korea is shipping fissile material to Iran. That would be a realistic kind of real world scenario, potentially. What do we do to stop that one? Well, under the classic kind of mentality of the Air Force, we're going to bomb the runway. And every time the cadets will say, bomb the runway. And my heart beats a little bit for them, like, yes, except for now we're going to talk about dirty bombs, right? And you just completely destroyed a local populace by a dirty bomb that unintentionally was caused by intentionally putting munitions on fissile material on an aircraft. Problematic at an extreme level when we're talking about the political landscape of the world. So what else can we do there? And then we start talking about kind of creative effects, right? That's maybe not kinetic, and all the different ways that we can try to have a cyber impact against preventing that aircraft from launching. Everything from engaging directly with the aircraft itself at a low-level hacking approach to changing the terrain and the area that that the people who are working in this highly integrated human and machine teaming environment, we call it the world, are engaging on. And we go all the way through this kind of storyline to eventually where we talk about, things like, well, what if we hack the school system? So all the schools are now closed and parents have to be there and they can't be working the air traffic control tower. To as simple as, well, what if we take advantage of the fact that most water treatment facilities in the United States and other countries are running antiquated Windows, like Windows XP. And in a cyber perspective, Windows XP is a guaranteed hack. I can almost always get in. And so that's running a Windows XP. Well, we can just take over the water treatment facility and potentially increase the chlorine level that's working into water. So I've been given this example for 3 years. What's fascinating, about 2 months ago, there's an open news press about Iran and Israel having that exact attack, where I believe it was Israel was stated to have attacked a water treatment facility in Iran, increasing the chlorine levels. This is no longer a cyber is on its own thing and its own protection. It's a key kind of capability that is integrated with our daily lives, and we've got to find a way to make sure the mindset of all of our graduates are thinking about the implications that they have to both protect that which we hold dear, right, which is now controlled, enabled, and sometimes completely automated by the cyber environment, and vice versa. We need to be able to hold at risk our adversaries that might rely on that same kind of capability, so that perhaps we can get away from necessarily the physical impacts, the kinetic impacts, right? The putting folks in line of danger, the flying approach, but have the national will effects that cyber can provide us as a country. The target right now for the folks who are going to be in that building, from a permanent party perspective, would be both Cyberworks and my department. And it might be worthwhile kind of talking about what each of these do, each of these organizations. So Air Force Sideworks, Air Force level kind of engagement organization that's intended to bring a different way of thinking about problems to the Air Force. And so is set up as a design thinking capability. So for those of you familiar with design thinking and innovation type of areas, to try to bring that mindset to the Air Force, and particularly to bring it to our cadets and faculty, and do cool events that are able to really challenge our kind of preconceived notions of how we solve problems to make us better as an organization, and the organization being the Air Force, but also the Academy. Another one they did, near and dear to all of our hearts, COVID, as that kicked off, they immediately kind of did a quick turn thing, brought cadets and faculty together to say, how are we going to go in this new kind of world where human contact is by a video camera in many ways? How do we keep that connection and help mental resilience for folks so that they're able to, so that our cadets are able to thrive despite all the challenges that exist with them? And those implementations were immediately kind of rolled into the institution here so that we're able to support our cadets even better. There's just a couple examples. They do everything from technology versus to people, to policies, to otherwise. But that's what they do, right? They solve big problems, do quick to design things, do all the hard work to go put that together and bring the players together. My department is more on the academic side, as also on research and development. And so we do a lot of partnerships together, like the perfect world, kind of game that I like to have. We're working with our cadets over, multiple years. At a certain point in time in their career, their cadet development, we have an opportunity to go set them up so they're part of a design sprint, working with Cyberworks and their team, where they bring in all these experts from industry and operations together to help solve a problem. And then we take whatever that solution is, and we're now working with the cadets over their, kind of culminating year, that capstone, last year of their cadet experience here, to really build it into a reality. So it takes that good idea and that innovative thinking that they've got there to something that they can actually see being implemented in the Air Force at large. That's the end state we're trying to get to between both of our organizations. And so I think it's a pretty exciting end state. And everything about this building is designed around that as kind of the culminating goal that we're trying to get to. The partnership with the industry, the ability to have rapid lab space so they can quickly just be as creative as possible in finding solutions that'll help our Air Force get that much better. And then the ability to thrive in academics and the educational things. So they have that foundation to be able to take advantage of all these cool opportunities between internships and partnerships and design sprints and research, so that they have, they really know that they have an ability to have an incredible, impactful say in the future of their Air Force. So we've been building this for a while now. This is not something started, right? I was one of the kind of founding members of the original Cyberworks idea back in, goodness gracious, I think 2014, 2015. From a cyber perspective, with respect to the academic programs, here's where we're at now. We have the world's first graduate from a cyber program in any college internationally. And so we got a ABET accreditation for that last year, I guess it was 2018. So 2 years ago now, August 2018. And we were able to be the world's first university to have cyber as a accredited degree. We're about to go through a reevaluation and accreditation meeting. I'm not worried about it in the slightest. Ours is top notch and universally, every time we have a visit, that's what they tell us. So I expect to hear the same again. So we have a cyber degree already. CompSci we've been doing for a very long time. It's been a very successful program. And we continue to kind of evolve that into a manner that's more technically rigorous, if you will. So for example, this year we've just converted our introduction computer science course, which used to be focused on programming via kind of workflows, right? Bubble charts and process charts like that, as opposed to syntactic programming. We've now moved it to syntactic programming. So we're doing Python, for anybody who knows that. It's kind of the language du jour of data science, of AI, and frankly of cyber, and it's growing incredibly even in software development from a computer science perspective. The Space Force just came out that their intent is to become the first digital-first service. And let's be clear, right? Nothing spurs a good motivation like a good competition. So I imagine the Air Force is quickly coming on board, saying we will not allow them to be too far ahead of us on the field of friendly strife. So how do we get to more of a digital service as well? I expect in the forthcoming years, when we break ground and officially open this building, there's going to be more demand than capacity. In terms of the amount of folks that the services are needing from our service academy to really build that future of both of those to the Air and Space Force. We are not just a portion of the cyber community. We have made the department and the cadets who are part of the department integral members of the cyber community already, even before they graduate. And the building is really, some of the intent of the building was purposefully designed to encourage that even more so. So one of the cool things about this building is this little kind of black hole down in the basement where we can have a full-up skiff. We're able to have TS-SCI conversations with our cadets doing real-world projects in collaboration with NSA. And I have an NSA visiting professor that we've had for several years. And so they've been tracking, figuring out how to leverage that with the connections on the Intel community, but also with 16th Air Force and all the great things that they're doing down in San Antonio. So I see this as a way to go from a pretty good clip to take it to 100, making sure that we are connected with the operational community, involved in real world engagements, seeing what's happening, no kidding, at the highest classification level possible, and making sure our cadets who are graduating out of here absolutely hot rounds, ready to go in the fight. When Dr. Kaminsky came and talked to it, what's really kind of cool about it is they're looking at what are those future technologies that are really going to change the way we think about warfare. And in particular, if you look at kind of the list of cool stuff, the artificial intelligence, cyber is one of them, autonomy is one of them, quantum computing, and hypersonics, I think, is the top list that I can recall. Of those ones, 4 of them are mine, right? The 4 of them are ones that we are touching on in some way or manner inside of the department, that we are trying to make sure we have cadets well exposed to it. So artificial intelligence, and that upper level core course I talked about really is kind of a culminating thing from that IFC, the Institute for Future Conflicts concept. So not only be cyber and cyber operations in a multi-domain environment, but also the impact of artificial intelligence in that environment. These are not future technologies. This is stuff that Mr. Madera is working every day on in his business line, trying to see what is the next level of artificial intelligence, how it's going to impact the commercial world in that environment. These are things that the cadets must know about in order to be capable in the future fight that they're going to be engaging in. And so the interplay with these ones, it's a collaborative relationship, right? As the IFC develops different technologies and concepts and training experiences for the cadets, we're heavily involved in that. What I imagine would happen is this building would be the showcase where we're giving them those kind of week-long immersive experiences, particularly during the summer, that they would be able to leverage, just like we would hope anyone would want to leverage it in a collaborative, multidisciplinary, and public-private partnerships engagements, which this building is purposely built, purposely designed in order to support. I want to make sure our cadets are empowered, that they understand the implications and the importance of what they're doing in this digital domain, and that they are excited about the opportunities that the Air Force, in whatever world, the Air Force inside the Space Force, the commercial world, they are empowered to level of excellence that we expect from a graduate institution, and to know that they deserve it because they worked hard, and that the faculty, that we got their backs, right? I think any way that I can make sure that they have that confidence, then we're winning. What we've done over the last few years, and this building is a representation of it, is really kind of broken down some of those barriers between public and private. The amount of work that the endowment and the team has gone to have that building as both a public-private venture, I think it's phenomenal. And I think it's really important in this digital domain. Right? Long gone are the days where the Air Force is going to be the only sole developer of the technology in that space. We are now operating in an environment that is absolutely built by the public sector, and we need the cadets to understand and then to be able to have open conversations across that public-private sector. Since being here, we have something like 30 different companies that I send cadets to each year. We have more cadets coming out of my department going into industry environments and government, right? So 16th Air Force included, seeing what is best practice and how companies go and work through these things. If you think about it, I'm taking like a experience, education with industry to another level. So what I'm building is an entire culture of digitally minded individuals who are going to be leaders in our Air Force, who know about different ways of doing things. They're then going to be vocal champions as they go start sending them out throughout the Air Force. In many ways, I took this job as a way to help build this kind of new mindset of cult community that we can then feed into the Air Force to help the Air Force do something better. And we're in a beautiful time in the Air Force where our Chief of Staff and the Vice Chief of Staff are very much empowering the younger voices to think of things differently and to be champions of that differently. So now we have this opportunity where the leadership supports it. I've created this kind of, folks who see things differently because they've been able to have that industry experience leading into joining that leadership ranks. We have an opportunity to really help make the Air Force go faster. I think that would be awesome. Right? I think the Air Force needs it.